Hi guys, got something completely different for you today. One of these. So, what is it? It is a 1970s airband transceiver from an aeroplane. I know the age of our equipment that we're doing seems to be going backwards, but we found this. It was a Facebook Marketplace sale. Obviously it's something very different, very old. It's not quite as old as I was hoping. I was aiming for sort of 60s, so there'd be something really interesting in there. But this is most likely all semiconductors, but there's going to be 1970s some very early RF semiconductors in here. So I have just had a lid off just to try and find some information on it. I've not gone any further, and there is absolutely nothing about this anywhere on the net. I can't find anything. I can find approvals for it, but that's it. So let's have a quick look. Front panel, not really very interesting. We've got lovely old Marconi logo on there. I have to say, in the event that this got scrapped, I'd be inclined to keep that. We've got a button marked squelch, so I'm not quite sure how that works. I'm guessing that might be a monitor type button that's often found in modern radios. A mic phone socket, so yeah, I guess you could probably almost use this without having the rest of the equipment in. F power and R power, no idea what that is. And we have a lovely old meter made by no idea, which has no units on it, so there really isn't a lot about it. On the back we have two sockets marked PLT and PLB, which I'm guessing is pilot and co-pilot. We have these interesting little key type arrangements there, and I think, looking at it, there might be another socket under here. This is obviously a test socket or an option that's not normally used. There is a lot of corrosion on this. Oh, I guess we might not be getting that out. Can we give that a bit of a wiggle to help it? Oh no, well, that'll be why it won't come out. So yeah, there is some fairly extensive corrosion in here. You can see how far that's gone into the metal. It probably means that there's no way in hell that screw's coming out. Grab another screwdriver. Everything in here is straight head screws, which is fairly common for equipment of this sort of age. I think we can get that out. I dread to think what the underside of this is like. Sorry, you can't see anything but my hand here. If I try and do this so you can watch it, I can't actually get enough leverage on for see what's going on. Yeah, that is really very crusty. These came from a company not far away from here. I'm just going to pause you a second because I want to clean up a bit. Right, headphone warning. Well, that was effective. I'm going to check the filter in that. So yeah, there's not really much else on the back that's interesting. So first things first, let's get this bottom off and get the outer covers off, and we can have a look. So as I said, I had this cover off. The hope was I would identify something, and all I managed to do was to date it. If you Google for the number for this, all you will find is the type approvals and it's not type approvals, airworthiness directives, or whatever they're called. Basically says you can put this on a plane. And someone with another YouTube video asking what on earth it is. Don't worry about not seeing under there, because we'll come back to it. You are zoomed out quite a bit, but obviously I'll bring you in closer for some more of this. My God, that Hoover threw some dust out. guess that means that the filter may be gone in it. But thankfully I don't think it was anything from this, because it didn't actually suck anything up. Right, there we go, that comes off. That's an L-shaped piece of metal, so that acts as a retainer to hold that on. And then we have a solid chassis. Oh, I did actually put that back on, which is aluminium, I'm guessing. We have a shielding part here for the synthesizer, and you can see that that's been done with a stencil, and you can actually see an ever so slight amount of overspray on that. So we're in. We've got 3 modules on this side: a power supply, a receiver, and a synth. This is actually a synthesizer receiver. Yeah, and then on the bottom we've got a ground plane. I expected this to be something a lot more primitive than it actually is, but being a synth transceiver means that it's actually, or digitally synthesized receiver, means that this is actually a lot more advanced than I expected. So on the bottom we have the bottom of the connector box. We'll get to that because we'll probably have to tear quite far down to get to that. We have another mystery box on the front. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but we'll have to tear into it to find that as well. And then we've got a back plane in here, and as you can see, this is lovely, proper Wyman's work in here. Everything's been done with lacing cord. I'd say they're bodge. There's a couple of bodges on here, but I don't think they are. That's just the way these things were built. Quite often you had to do a bit of fine tuning, and it was easier to do it on the back plane than it was to do it on the cards. I'll take the cards out because this is not light, and then we'll go through the cards once they're out. I suspect there's a lot of screening cans in here that we'll need to get into as well. I'm expecting mostly ceramic chips in here, if there even are any in here. So the power supply comes up and out. As you can see, nothing in there, and they are... no idea who makes those. I can't even tell you what the power supply voltage on this would be. I would love to actually power this up, even to just see that it did power up, but I don't know a great deal about aircraft subsystems. This could be fairly low voltage, and I believe some aircraft systems are actually quite high voltage, but certainly all aircraft systems I'm aware of are high frequency as well, so in the hundreds of hertz. I think 400 hertz is normal, and obviously I've got no way of generating that. Here we are. So this is the receiver, which apparently may require gentle persuasion. I was hoping to go out and do some more on the video cameras video today, but I'm getting behind on the filming, and I want the filming done before I take it apart. So that's your receiver. I have to say, from the point of view of RF type designs, there's nothing I'm seeing in there on that side, but certainly this end is definitely the sort of RF stuff I'm used to seeing. They almost look like SMA connectors there. So we'll take that out. Synthesizer board. Got there in the end. For some reason I've now got an Electric Six lyric going around in my head. And can we get him out? Yes. It doesn't look, these serial numbers are all very low actually, looking at them. 101, 182, 120. Is there an overall serial number for the chassis? I'd have thought there would have been, but I don't see one. But yeah, that points to this being quite an early unit. Oh, look at that. So a lot of that is going to be logic. It's 7000 series, so we'll need to do a bit of digging to find out exactly what that is. And again, we've got a lot of RF cans on here, and I just lost another screw. So we'll have a poke through there as well. So we are left with what looks like a power board here. That transformer is quite characteristic of being high frequency. So yeah, I'm expecting that to not be anything we can supply power to. So let's see if we can't get this side off. Oh, so there is damage on a couple of these screws, which does imply we're not the first in here. But these items, especially something as well for its time as advanced as this, and the fact that it's aerospace, would not have been cheap. So you generally keep fixing these until there was no option, you know, no way to repair. I'm just noticing that these screws that we're going for on the case have got little green dots on, so I'm fairly happy. That means these are the ones we want. I'm guessing this is going to be the RF power amp. Is this a subboard type thing? It might be. How do we gently get this moving? It doesn't seem like it's particularly ready to move. There's not really anything I can... Let's just get a gentle tap on that. That looks good. And we will, at the point this stops going anywhere, stop hitting it. We definitely have some movement there. This is probably not particularly high on the recommended removal procedure. I can see we are going somewhere. I can also see some more corrosion, so that's probably why we're not able to get this out that easy. Yeah, we're on the move, I think. It's just absolutely nothing to get hold of. There we go, we're out. So yeah, this is another subboard. And yep, I would say that's power amps. This will be quite interesting because I've just done a repair on a piece of equipment that uses a lot of germanium transistors, and I would suggest, given the frequency and the age of this may well be the same. We've got tracks there that have been repaired. A lot of very fresh flux in here. We've got a resistor and a inductor that have been removed here, and a lot of quite bodgy. Incidentally, bearing in mind that this is 1970s, I don't know if you can see this. Let's just zoom down. We have what looks, to all intents and purposes, to be ceramic surface mount caps, and there's some more over here as well. Interesting. The surface mount's been kicking around for a lot longer than even I realised. I'm aware that surface mount was used on some of the Apollo stuff as well. You don't want to zoom out that much. Sorry, don't want to make people ill. For the people that really get itchy about it, we'll move the hammer out of the way. So yeah, as I say, we'll tear into these boards a bit more. There's no safe way to put that one down, so we'll put him out of the way on the desk. This looks like, to all the worlds, like just a chassis now. So we've got input connectors down here, Claire Elliott relay, 24 volts DC. There's not really much there. I'd like to have a look in this front. That feels like it is, yeah, that's completely hollow down there. Let's just pop this panel off and see what's going on back here. I suspect that this will probably get put back together and it will either end up in our stash, or we might even sell this on, because to be honest, there's no reason that we would need it. There's nothing we can use it for, so it might be better off going to a collector or something, but there's not really a great deal in there. Get these out of the way. So yeah, it's just a nice little meter. Again, there is no manufacturer mark on there. 100 microamps. Lovely carbon resistors, but I'm still none the wiser as to what that does. Again, we've got no manual for this, so actually finding out how this all works would be quite difficult, and aircraft stuff is particularly quite expensive to get hold of manuals and things. So we'll get rid of that. So where do we start first? I think the power amp is going to be challenging, so we'll probably save that till last. So let's start where it makes sense. We'll start with this power supply. So let's bring you in a bit. That all framed right. That means I can sit down and we can explore this together. So I've got a little collection of screws off one side that I'm keeping track of, because I do want to put this back together. If we're not going to salvage anything from it, then I really don't see the point in just destroying it for the hell of it. I do want to bring the vacuum back in and get rid of all these crystals from the corrosion, but we've already seen how well that vacuum cleaner works. So this is going to be the back of the board. Off there. Ah, there we go. Bear with me. There's a load of crinkle washers. There. Last thing I want to do is get any of this muck under my nails. I'm just going to brush that off to one side. I will deal with that in a bit. Right, framing. There we go. So we're in the wrong side, so we'll flip this up in a second. These are bare fiberglass PCBs with tinned copper tracks. There's no etch resist on them. There is silk screen, although I'm not convinced that silk screen is not entirely done by hand. Ah, right, okay, we've got a problem here. The board needs to come up out of this way. So we've got TO3s in there. These look like they hold those TO3s in place. I do need to keep checking framing, because let's just put one of them there, one of them there, and one of them there. That should help us with our framing a bit. So I can't actually see the screen. I'm hoping that we will be able to get back to using the camera again fairly shortly. So I think you've got to come out. You've got to come out. It's a lovely old board, and certainly this will have been done manually. It would probably have been done using the Letraset type transfers as well. I'm not sure if they were really doing a lot of photo etch at that point. It's possible, but this board would be held to photo etch. There's just so much copper would come off of this. Certainly where I've been doing photo etching, life is a lot easier when you don't have large amounts of copper to remove. Can we get this out? So yeah, we've got some big TO3s on the back. I think we might have to fire up a soldering iron to get into this, which I didn't want to do. do want to see in there. Okay, I'm going to commit cardinal sin here. Yeah, I promise you I will solder these wires back on. But if I get these two off, I should be able to fold it out. There we go. So we've got some big TO3s on the back there. Let's get those out because they might be something interesting. One more in the corner. Feels like we've forgotten something somewhere. No, they've got to come sideways and out, I think. Or maybe one of these isn't out properly. That's out, that's out, that's out, that's out. That's out. Oh, I can see. So we've got to come sideways and clear the case and then out. We've got another wire there. There's not a lot we can do about that. So you should be framed now. We have 2 in 3713s. They don't ring a bell. We can have a look. We could if my mouse would wake up. 2N3713. What are they? That is actually silicon. So very early silicon. As you can see, they are date coded 1970. So yeah. What have we got going on there? That's connected to all these transistors. It's connected to this choke. Almost makes me think that's probably a power input. And so we've got a transformer on the transmitter board. So capacitors are rated 120 volts, 125 volts, so it's obviously fairly chunky. We have a filter here. We have down here, again, I don't know how good the light is. Yep, let's just zoom in just a tiny bit more, get you focused on the board. Stay there. So we have down here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 diodes. So I'm guessing we've got AC of some description coming in here. Oh dear. We have exploded capacitors. So that one there is quite clearly exploded. When these capacitors were standard fitment, they were not fitted with any pressure relief, so they would just explode, which is what's happened there. So we've got one exploded there, one with green crusty, so that's leaked. One with lots of green crusty, so that's leaked. So certainly this power supply board here is probably not much good. BCY, that's silicon. 2N2905, that's silicon. So this is all silicon, which, to be honest, I wasn't expecting. I would imagine they are 4001s or something like that. And then we have a little TO3 package down there, which I cannot see any info on. Let me just see if I can get a torch. Apparently no, they're all down in the car. I have no idea what that is. To 100, so op amp voltage regulator or something like that. I'd have thought that is the only IC in here. We've got an adjuster. So everything coming in here. You know what? I think this is a switch mode power supply. I'm sure this is a switch mode power supply because we've got a transformer here, and I'm guessing if I grab a meter that there is going to be no continuity side to side on it. So all of these around here are taps from one winding. Those three are grouped. Those three are grouped. Looking at these, I would guess this is the actual switching side of it. So this will be driven, or one of these will be driven. They are indeed. So these are driven by these big power transistors. These will be sensor windings then, and feedback. That could well be an op amp of some kind then. So yeah, that's quite an early switch mode power supply. I really would like to power that up and see what it did. Shall we try? I've got a rough idea where we need to be going with this. So I'm guessing that all of those are outputs looking at this. Not quite sure where our input would be. So we've got, that's potentially going to be an input. I'm really not expecting this to do anything at all. It's probably outside the range of what I can achieve with what I've got here. We've got a little diode there off to ground. So yeah, I guess the case is probably ground. So let's chuck one on there. I think my 12 volts, my ground is a bit short, bear with me. I'm honestly expecting absolutely nothing to happen here. Those two that we cut are these two here, which go straight back off to these. Let's turn that on. Lots and lots of current limit. Just have a look where that ground goes. To the case by the looks. So I'm pretty sure that is our ground. And we are drawing nothing. Nope, so that doesn't work. We're drawing quite a lot if we do that, but that's to be expected because I think that is literally just some kind of filtering. So our ground looks to be there, and then that returns there. It also returns there. Quite an awkward one, this. So our ground is definitely the case. It looks like we've got multiple power inputs. Let's just go and grab a little. There's absolutely no reason to be doing this. Just out of curiosity. I just realised you're very zoomed in, you can't actually see anything. There we go. I won't cut that out, you can listen to me musing on how we're doing this. So nothing appears to be grounded here, all these transistors have their own grounds. So I think we want to be on, well, those two go straight off. Come out here. So that's definitely a filter of some kind, but it does provide power here, so our ground must be coming from somewhere else. Where would you get a ground from? I can see where I'd get a ground from. It would be here. If I were a ground, I'd be there. So there you go, we should be powered up. We are drawing some power. We are drawing a few milliamps, but I'm guessing there's going to be nothing happening at all. We know this is a little bit sickly, so that surprises me. So 63 volts, 25 volts, 18 volts, or negative 18 volts, 15 volts, 5 volts. There we go, that's surprising. Power supply actually works. So that's drawing 170 milliamps. It's showing every sign of being alive. So maybe we'll solder these back on and we will have a go at actually powering it up. As I say, I really don't expect it to do anything, so it's whether it's worth doing it. And so we will pop this roughly back together as it was. Obviously, we've no idea if those power rails are intolerant either. But you know, there you go. There's a bit of fairly elderly power supply technology, and it's good. It works, or appears to work. Let's just grab all of our bits. Obviously there are problems with those capacitors, so I would expect those supply rails to be noisy and not necessarily that great. What should we do next? Receiver or synth? Let's look at the receiver. It's got lots of cans on it. Let's just get you framed again. There, you're going the wrong way, phone. There we go. So, lots and lots of cans. Let me just grab some of those board retainers so I know roughly where I should be framed. We've got a couple of cans there which I'll take off in a second, and then we've got a lot of open analog here. There doesn't look to be anything particularly RF going on here, so my guess is this would probably be audio frequency. We're on silicon transistors again, I believe. I need to check that. 2N3053, 2N3057. Yep, I'm fairly sure they're silicon. SN52709. What's that one? SN. Forgot what it was now. 52709. What is it? It's an op amp. Well, that's predictable. So I would guess microphone, preamp and audio output stage possibly on there. Let's have a look in the cans. Let's go for the small one. So we've got two sockets here which look all the world to me like very early SMAs. They will be test points for setting up or aligning. I wonder how you'd actually program this, because it would appear that this is being synthesizer based, should be programmable. There might be a micro in there somewhere, but I don't know what it would be or what it would even look like. So, what's inside can number 1? The thing to be careful with these is there is a chance of there being some fairly nasty chemicals in some of these things. So we have a subboard with another op amp by the looks and a tuning slug, a couple of tuning slugs. Not even going to guess as to what that is. We've got another SMA type connector there. Incidentally, if you know what this module is, or you have diagrams or any information on this at all, it would be quite gratefully received, because there appears to be nothing about these. The low serial number suggests that they might not actually be that common. Although I did have an option on the second one of these. So many screws. Well, at least they're not soldered down like most modern things are. So this is just a lid rather than the entire can. Right, well that's easy, that's the actual front end. You've got a 4-pin transistor in there, so that will be something special. And again, more tuning stuff. I don't think there's anything especially different going on there. There might be something special going on here. Again, not so sure. This one is quite well screened off. I don't think you can see it on the video, but we've got another partition here. There really isn't a lot in terms of semiconductors in here. There's 3 transistors on there, there's one op amp there, and 1 transistor in there. So for such a complicated piece of equipment, there's really not much going on. How are we going to get this out? There we go. Ooh. We have a crystal filter. More op amps, 3 more op amps, and another can which I'm not going to open. Cathodian Cathodian Crystals Limited, Linton, Cambridge and England. I will pop you out of there and just let you have a quick look around all of this 1970s goodness. There's that transistor. There's that subboard. Little TO3 op amps, not TO3. I've forgotten what size they are. That crystal is absolutely lovely. But if we look at these op amps here, 1969, 1969, 1969. Can we see those? SGS Thompson, SGS 270 something. And I will just lift you away and give you a quick tour of the bottom board. So we've got something else here. That's another crystal filter. That's quite a nice little unit. And then lots more. That op amp there is 1969 as well. And they look all to the world to me like a audio matched pair. There's somebody's fingerprint there on that top of that transistor. going to pause here for a second, put you back in the stand, and we'll have a look at the synth, which might be the more interesting bit. So, back again. I've had a quick look online, try and get some information on what's going on here, and there is no information on a single chip on here. We've got a lot of transistor drivers here, which I'm guessing are going to be driving the lines out to the cockpit. But other than that, I really can't find anything on it. All these chips are aviation specific chips, mostly made by Fairchild up here, or the rest of them are made by SGS Thompson. So unfortunately I can't tell you anything about them. And then we've got two other blocks here and two other blocks here. Again, this side, typical RF sort of looks. There's a lot of precision resistors in there. There's a lot of recognisable names: Kemet, SGS Thompson, Bournes. They're all names that we know, Plessy. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to do much really on going into here. That looks like the bottom of that can. So that's the top. And we can't see anything on those cans. So let's just quickly have a look in there. More chips, and that looks like an oven controlled crystal oscillator. Can we get that out of there? Might be able to. Something long and thin for that. It's a lovely piece of machinery, and I do feel ever so slightly bad about butchering it, but the reality of it is that there's no way this could ever go back into service, and we suspect it's got issues anyway. Can we gently lift that out? It's more because I want to see if there's any specs or anything else useful on there. It looks like you can't actually get it out without removing those nuts entirely. And they are quite difficult to get at. There we go. Get the other one just as easily. Or I'm literally just spinning the screwdriver against one of the flats. It's just running around the outside. It's not butchering anything. It's not slipping. But again, I'm not decided about the future of this. So we should, if I can get this on there and gently lift this up now. I don't want to score it because this is a lovely looking bit of kit. And someone has put great pains into making this as difficult as possible to get out. So those washers are in there and won't slip past that lip. So the washers have got to come out as well. There we go, we're in. That is indeed a oven controlled oscillator. I will get some photos of that when I go through the boards closely. So this would be the local oscillator, 12.8 megahertz. I'll get some photos of that. Right, next can then. there's fingers on this one. I'm not quite sure what we've got going on here, but we've got multiple stages of it. So I would guess this is an amplifier of some description. Again, we have an unknown unknown chip, and we've got two sockets, which I'm guessing will be an input and an output for testing. It's just me assuming that it flows this way. That looks logical. We've got some kind of transformer coupling here. Maybe that's a mixer. It's quite possible that is. This is coupled directly back to the edge connector. And then this feeds this, which looks suspiciously PLL-like, so maybe this is actually a mixer. No, we've got an RX and a TX there, so I guess you could do it that way. You've got separate RX and TX there. My knowledge of older radio systems like this is quite limited. Basically, it's not far limited off. I know the functional blocks and roughly what things should look like. And we're back. Sorry, phone call in the middle of filming. Right, so we've had a look at this side. I'm not 100% sure what's going on here. I've got a rough idea of what parts are what. So let's pop some of these on this side. I have, while I was on my phone call, just briefly undone some screws, so you have to watch less of me doing that. So we have tuners in here. Assuming there's going to be a VCO here somewhere and a phase lock loop. That nothing is really identified. That looks like front end type electronics. L4C8. You've got tuning on there. They're a slightly different type of variable capacitor. We've got another one of those connectors in there as well. Incidentally, while I was sat here looking at this, this has been out before. This has definitely been worked on. We've got a chip here that's gone with a lot of flux residue, and every one of these screws is ever so slightly damaged. There's a lot of diodes on here. These are all diodes as far as I can make out. But they'll be to do with this. I can only assume this is some kind of interface with the control panel in the cockpit. So, not quite sure what that is there. And we have more here. I would be inclined to think we did take that cover off, didn't we? Loop. So that's labelled loop, so I'm guessing that's possibly the phase lock loop, which would make that the VCOs. But I'm not convinced. We've got two in there, obviously a VCO for the RX and VCO for the TX. And it looks like there probably is two separate areas of circuit in there. That's all conformal coated as well. So I'm guessing here, but I suspect VCO and phase lock loop. Quite honestly, I've got no idea what's going on here. These are all guesses, but yeah. So I will take you out the stand. We'll have a quick look at that, and so we'll have a quick look at this. Let me just have a quick look at this. Again, all the transistors we've got in here are silicon. We can't identify any chips. I've not seen ceramics with the lids on like that before, but these are going to be industrial temperature grade, which is quite possibly what that is. I'll pull the crystal out in a minute. And if any of you know what's actually going on here, what these blocks are, or know anything at all about this unit, then please do let me know. Sorry, I'm wobbling because I'm trying to pop this oven controlled oscillator out at the same time. There we go. And there's our Marconi crystal oscillator, made in England. Is there a date on that? There's a 70 on the end of that serial number. It really doesn't want to. There we go. Just pop that back where it is so I can flip it over. I know I keep saying it, I've not decided on what we're going to do with this yet. I'll just have a look at this side. So we've got a lot of what looks like output circuitry there. Again, they are all silicon. If you want to pause it and try and find any of these chips, I had a cursory look. We're not been able to find anything. I would guess this is all logic of some kind. It is some lovely old electronics in here, but I am surprised about how much silicon is actually in here. I expected more germanium technology. Oh, sorry, fingers. Right, I will pause here and we'll get that power board over here. Well, unfortunately, this is actually as far as we're going to go, because taking this board out, I have just noticed something, which means we will not be going any further. That is basically, we are not taking this apart anymore. If we don't disturb things too much, then there's not much of a risk, but quite frankly, berylliosis is not a risk I'm willing to take, and it's something you need to be aware with high power, older high power RF. There's more under there, and microwaves in particular. So there's the board, and that I just want to have a quick look at where this transformer goes. It looks like these power transistors are actually involved in this transformer, because my thought was they may feed the power supply. We've got damage to the silk screen in here as well, which could be more leaky caps. I really do want to take this board apart a bit further, but I'm just concerned about those modules. I'm going to pause you for a second and I will have a look and possibly pop the top off this board, but I think I'm going to put gloves on anyway, so bear with me. I've got the board out and I've resorted to gloves. The items we're worried about are these. These are, I believe, high power RF transistors. They contain beryllium. Exposure to beryllium dust either through the skin or inhalation is not good. It causes a disease called berylliosis, which is quite frankly horrible. So yeah, if you see those warning signs and you can't guarantee where you're going to go in dismantling something, and you can't guarantee you're not going to damage the ceramics that contain the beryllium, then walk away. Don't even do it. Beryllium is really common in microwave transformers, and it's a really good reason, above the obvious dangers of messing with magnetrons, not to go near them. In case of the magnetron, it's normally the ceramic seal on the exterior that's the problem. Most likely source of beryllium in these is going to be, there is a ceramic in the body, which I don't think you can possibly just see under by C738 there. The beryllium will be contained in that ceramic, and any damage to that ceramic is bad news, especially if you break the thing open. I could take the heat sinks off, but quite frankly, I am not touching any of those. But that will be your high power output stage, I would imagine. Then we have two. These are quite curious, and some of you should recognise the transistors. These are quite obviously not RF. I would be inclined to suggest that these are either power supply or possibly even audio. But I do like the way you've got the matched small silicon transistors tucked in there as well. No hazards in there at all. The same thing there. Can't quite find those. They may just be other part numbers for a 2N3055. I mean, they do look very similar, so it's possible. And then there's a lot of straight silicon transistors in here. There's not really any obvious integration. This is almost certainly the power output board, and I would guess possibly with those TN3055s it might even be the audio amps as well. I should imagine for the aircraft this was designed for, the cockpit was probably quite a noisy place, so you would want obviously to drive your line and to drive any speakers a reasonable amount of power. But there you go. Unfortunately, this one I'm not really going to dig much into, and there's not much I can dig into it. Quite frankly, I want to get the lid back on this one and put it away. But there you go. A not very informative dive into a quite elderly radio receiver with a camera that's quite frankly not playing ball today. If you know anything about this, you can give me any information. Even just wiring and schematics would be just interesting to see how it goes together and confirm what we thought. Let me know. Otherwise, you know, it's a bit of technology that most people will never ever get the chance to see. What I really, really want more than anything else is to actually get a black box, but you know, we'll see on that one. Anyway, take care. So just a bit of a finish on this. There's the random surface mount that I was on about on here. Had a bit more of a look at what's going over here with these power transistors, and they're involved with this transformer, so they could be an audio out transformer, or given the size of the wiring that runs around here over to the power section, I suspect they could be high voltage supplies or high current supplies for the power output stage. So having found what we found in here, I think this is probably going to stay apart now. This board is going to be put in a bag and sealed, and then that will be going to our e-waste contacts to be disposed of. I quite frankly, I wouldn't want to have the potential to expose someone to such a nasty disease on my conscience, so I would rather that they were properly dealt with rather than me give them to someone else. So that does unfortunately mean that it's the end for this unit. If anybody wants any of the other boards, so the power board, the synthesizer or the receivers, let me know. I will probably take that little meter off and find some creative use for it. But unfortunately it is the end of the line for this. I don't think there was any real life left in it anyway, so it's not a big thing. It is sad that you know, potentially something quite rare is now being binned, but I know that there's at least one more of these. The seller has one more, and I know that there are people online that have these as well, so this might serve as a quick view as to what's actually inside these for these that those that have them and don't know what they are, and potentially as a warning as to what might be inside them. But yeah, please, if you've got any more information, please come forward and let me know. So I will say goodbye again and catch you on the next video.